Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me say up front my personal bias, okay? Because what I'm going to say in this video might sound controversial to some, right? My personal bias is that boxing is just full of it, okay? I think everyone in boxing has an agenda. People tell you what you want to hear, right? Everyone claims to be in favor of drug testing except when you ask them to sign a contract, right? Then, of course, everyone is surprised when contenders or champions fail drug tests, but yet this is a sport where one of the heavyweight champions, the current champions, was denied the opportunity to represent his country in the Olympics because, of course, back then when he was an amateur, he failed a drug test, right? This is a sport where you have two of the best fighters pound for pound. One guy clearly is up against a deadline because he's looking at a short prison sentence. And of course, during the negotiations, the other guy says, hey, I can't fight you until they build a temporary stadium in Las Vegas to house an extra 20,000 people, right? To me, the sport is preposterous. The promoters really favor the old guard because they're able to raise capital to put on fights, to lure the networks, HBO and Showtime, to show the fights when they have a big name involved in the fight. And those big names tend to be the older, proven fighters. If you're a young guy who's 21, 22, 23, who has the talent, right? Often you don't get the opportunity. Worse yet, they want to relegate you to the undercard, and of course they want to say that you're not ready to fight the old guard because, let's face it, the older guy doesn't want to fight a talented 21, 22, 23-year-old, right? And of course, it's just easier to get paying customers for the bigger known older name, right? So, with all of that in mind, with my skepticism and suspicion about boxing coddling older fighters, right? Let's talk about 5 reasons, in my opinion, why Floyd Mayweather may retire. Now, Mayweather started talking about retirement after beating Miguel Cotto. Now, understand, Miguel Cotto, as I've said online in multiple videos, was tailor-made for Floyd Mayweather, right? Cotto stood right in front of Floyd for the first 4 rounds of the fight. Cotto was a one-handed fighter. Forget the mainstream narrative, right? His right hand is perfunctory. In other words, he can stun you with the right hand, but you could get hit with Cotto's right hand for most of the night and you weren't going to go anywhere. That right hand really wasn't a big right hand. Cotto really is a lefty fighting out of an orthodox stance. So, if Floyd were able, as he was, to block that left hook, what Cotto was left with was a left jab. And while that left jab could, get Floyd's nose to start running, that was about it. Floyd knew he could neutralize Cotto's power, right? Well, let's talk about situations where Floyd might not be so fortunate. Let me just say my own bias is that Floyd Mayweather is the best fighter in boxing. I think he's the smartest man in the sport, right? I have little doubt in my mind that he beats Manny Pacquiao, right? I believe if there was a round robin of fighters at 147 and 154, Floyd Mayweather probably wins that tournament. Well, there is a caveat. We'll talk about that. But let's talk about who Floyd Mayweather is and why he might be retiring. Mayweather is a counterpuncher, fights out of an orthodox stance. Now understand, counterpunchers depend on structure, right? Knowing that Miguel Cotto is going to be right in front of it, right? And angles, right? You have Miguel Cotto right in front of you. If you're a counterpuncher, you know the angles at which he can throw that left hook, right? So Floyd knew, and you could look at the tape, that he could have his hand up, block the left hook up top, right? He could bend over, block the left hook down low, right? Counterpuncher set it up so that when you throw this, they're able to counter with that, right? They're able to counter with that because they know that when they counter, you're going to be there to get hit, right? So Floyd Mayweather can look at the tape, and if he has an opponent who's going to be right in front of him pushing the action, then Mayweather can literally just back up to the corner or back up against the ropes, have the guy come up on him, and then deconstruct him, right? A Ricky Hatton, another Mayweather victim, was tailor-made for Floyd because, again, you knew Ricky Hatton was going to be right in front of you. You knew that Hatton was going to try to rough you up, and I would argue that Hatton really is predominantly left-handed, and that when he throws his punches, they have a hitch, right? So Floyd knew he would be able to see when the punch was coming, right? You know what? There's a whole group of fighters, we'll call them Roy Jones disciples, who were able to beat technicians like Floyd Mayweather by literally not being where they're supposed to be, by coming across as unstructured, right? By being able to change the angles. In other words, when Floyd would go to counter, or when a counterpuncher goes to counter against a Roy Jones type, that Roy Jones type might not be there to get countered, right? In the 1990s, Roy Jones literally had a style where he'd be outside, right? This is a style that David Hay has actually copied, where Jones would be outside and then Jones would leap in. Jones, by the way, today still has one of the best left hooks in boxing. He would leap in with power shots. Then Jones would jump back outside, right? It's just a blitzkrieg type of style, right? Let me also say, too, that what Jones would do, just look at the film, is he'd try to hide his hands by literally rocking outside. You would see him with his left hand, right, in particular, and he would literally be swinging the hand to throw off the timing of the technician he was fighting. So when he fought a supreme technician, James Toney, there are times in that fight where Toney's like urging Jones to fight, and Jones is doing things like imitating a chicken, right? And then throwing a punch off cadence before Toney would know what to do. And then, of course, after he would hit James, Jones would either take a step forward if he thought he had Toney hurt, or take a step backwards to avoid getting countered, right? So if you can fight like a ghost, you can give Floyd Mayweather a lot of problems, right? So the kind of fighter who would give Mayweather a lot of problems is someone who, like Jones, was mobile, is constantly changing the angles, is unpredictable, is not a pattern fighter, and who hides his hands. In other words, you're a counterpuncher looking to counter a punch. Just imagine if Miguel Cotto was able to hide his left hand, right? Keep it moving around. Early in the fight, maybe he has the hand up here. Later in the fight, maybe he has the hand below his waist, right? If you can change the angles when you're throwing the same punch, even that can throw off a technician who really is operating on precision basis, right? And so, let's talk about, if I could get my cat here out of the picture, let's talk about the guys who I believe have led Floyd to seriously contemplate retirement. Because if he continues fighting, then he's going to have to run into these 5 guys. And I believe that he understands the risk to his legacy is simply too great. The first fighter is a seasoned veteran, Sergio Martinez. Let me just point out, I believe Martinez is the second best fighter pound for pound in the sport. But more importantly, even though we keep hearing that the 37-year-old Martinez came to the sport late, understand Martinez has been fighting professionally since 1997. The fight against Antonio Margarito, where Martinez got knocked out, that fight took place at Mandalay Bay in 2000. We're talking about a cagey veteran. Now understand the weight gap between Floyd and Martinez. And by the way, the fight's viable because, of course, Floyd just won the 154-pound title against Miguel Cotto. Right? Now understand the weight gap. Martinez has fought and has beaten guys like Kelly Pavlik. Think about how much bigger than Floyd Mayweather Kelly Pavlik is. Could you imagine Floyd Mayweather beating Kelly Pavlik? Right? Sergio Martinez has. Martinez used to walk around between fights weighing around about 170 pounds. Now Martinez has lost weight. He's keeping his weight low. He has said he will fight Floyd at 154. In fact, he's even hinted he would fight Floyd at 150 pounds. This fight would be unbelievably dangerous for Floyd. In fact, I would say Martinez is probably the most dangerous opponent out there for Floyd Mayweather. It's Martinez and another boxer I'll get to later. Bob Arum recently came out and said Floyd didn't want to fight Manny because Manny was a southpaw. Arum went further and said that Floyd had problems with Zab Judah, another southpaw, right? Zab Judah did give Floyd problems early in that fight. In fact, Zab Judah, quite frankly, knocked Floyd down in that fight. If you look at the film, you'll see Mayweather's glove does hit the canvas. Well, understand Sergio Martinez is a southpaw. Martinez bends at the waist, making it near impossible to hit him in the body unless you track him down. It's an open question on whether Floyd Mayweather at 35 has the foot speed to track down Sergio Martinez. Keep in mind, Kelly Pavlik couldn't corner him. Paul Williams couldn't corner him, right? Martinez moves better than most. If you can't track down Martinez, what's going to happen is Martinez is going to keep you busy with a right jab. He's going to be circling you most of the fight. He's going to be changing tempo most of the fight. Martinez rocks. Watch a Martinez videotape. You're going to see he's rocking the entire fight. In other words, he's dictating tempo during the fight. And I'm just here to tell people that Martinez is actually a knockout puncher, right? And that Martinez's straight right hand, his straight left hand, he's a southpaw. His straight left is one of the sport's best punches, right? He can literally take you out with that punch or literally get you to be completely dazed and confused by that punch. Just look at the Matthew Macklin fight. He keeps his hand so low and he's so far outside that it's very hard for a counterpuncher to figure out the angles of the punches, right? Let me also say, too, that Martinez, in terms of his punch, has not had a fight go the distance in his last 4 fights. And he's fighting guys a lot bigger, and I mean a lot bigger, than Floyd Mayweather, who, of course, was a welterweight before his last fight. I know Mayweather won the 154 title before when he fought Oscar De La Hoya. He weighed 150 for that fight. Here, the Mayweather people say that after weighing in at 151, Mayweather on the night of the Cotto fight weighed 147. Right? You have to ask yourself whether or not he would be able to deal with Sergio Martinez's power when much bigger men, Matthew Macklin, Darren Barker, weren't able to deal with Sergio Martinez's power. Right? And keep in mind, Martinez is different, very different, than Miguel Cotto, because Martinez is two-handed. He can box you up close if he needs to, but against a Floyd Mayweather, he could also be outside and create all kind of problems for Floyd, whose foot speed has slowed since he was in his prime. Let me point out that Cotto, after charging Floyd the first 4 rounds and being in front of Floyd, losing the first 4 rounds, in my opinion, then took a step back. And I would argue that Cotto's best rounds in that recent Mayweather fight was when he took a step back and created distance and changed the angles against Mayweather. Well, that's where Sergio Martinez would start, right? And I believe he's able to change angles much better than Miguel Cotto. Let's talk about another fighter I think who would give Floyd a hard time, and I believe this guy's getting snowed by the boxing establishment. The boxing establishment keeps saying that this guy is not ready for a Mayweather fight, right? That he's too young, that he's too green. Larry Merchant claims the guy's promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, told him that this guy wasn't ready for Floyd. I think what's really going on is that many people in boxing have an interest in making money off the older established Floyd Mayweather. And of course, they want guys like this to stand in line so long that they never get the opportunity to fight Mayweather. And this guy's name is Saul Alvarez. Let me just say, I have been and I remain a Saul Alvarez skeptic on a few things. You know, I'd like to see Alvarez actually fight for 3 minutes a round as opposed to 1 minute and 30 seconds, right? I'd love to see Alvarez able to make weight comfortably. Let's just say this, though, right? Alvarez keeps improving, and he's a big guy. For his last fight, presumably at 154 against Shane Mosley, understand that Alvarez on fight night weighed 167 pounds. 167. You have to ask yourself, can Floyd, who weighed 147, compete with a 167-pound guy who actually hits hard for a 167-pound guy? Let me also point out that Alvarez has a better left hook than Miguel Cotto. If you don't believe me, take a look at his knockout with that left hook of Carlos Baldomir, who has a reputation for having one of the best chins in the sport. Keep in mind, Baldomir went 12 rounds with Zab Judah, pretty big hitter. Baldomir went 12 rounds with Floyd Mayweather, right? More importantly, though, the reason why Alvarez, apart from size and punching power, would be a problem for Floyd Mayweather is that he throws punches from odd angles, very odd angles. And he has one-punch knockout power, right? The guys who deal with him, I know Shane Mosley, who has a great chin, was somehow able to survive, and that surprised me. But Kermit Cintron was not, and take a look how dazed and confused Kermit Cintron was at the end of that fight, right? Canelo hit so hard to the body that the question needs to be asked, can any welterweight survive a sustained body attack from Canelo? Right? Also, I'll say this too. I thought he had average hand speed. In his last fight, he surprised me. Somehow, he has picked up his hand speed. His hands are the fastest I've seen him. Now, Canelo wants to fight Floyd. Let me just say to both men here, using the internet as my medium, if Canelo is weighing in at 167 right now, doesn't everyone realize that as Canelo gets older, he might not be able to make 154 for fights? He may not be able to lose 13 pounds to make the weigh-in and to still be able to operate at a top level. As it is, he looks like he has some stamina issues and pacing issues, right? So if Floyd is going to fight Canelo, that fight has to happen in the next 12 months. And all I'm saying is, are we really confident that Floyd Mayweather will be able to go through 12 rounds against Canelo without getting hit by one of Saul Alvarez's money shots? He hit Shane Mosley with several of them. Also, keep in mind, if Miguel Cotto was able to rough up Floyd's nose with a jab, Canelo has an excellent jab to go with an excellent left hook and an excellent straight right hand. Right now, Floyd is technically the better fighter. If they were the same size, I would take Floyd in a heartbeat. I understand they're both 5'8", but one guy is a big, thick, fullback size 5'8", and the other guy is a slender guy who just fought at 147, right, in a 154 fight. And so my point is simply this. I believe because of the angles at which Saul Alvarez throws his punches, right, and because of his clever feints. Watch the Mosley fight. There are many times where Alvarez is doing head feints. Doesn't even move his hands. He's just moving his head to feint. I believe that Saul Alvarez would have a legitimate puncher's chance against Floyd Mayweather. I believe Floyd knows all of this. That's another reason why Floyd is thinking, hey, maybe now's the time to retire. Because as old lions know, there are always young lions out there, right? The torch is always being passed to a new generation. That's a constant theme, particularly in boxing. Whatever day Floyd Mayweather decides to retire, there will be young lions at the gate, right? So it's just a matter of whether or not Floyd chooses this to be the right time to retire. My point in this video is just to point out that there are some young lions at the gate. In addition to Martinez and Alvarez, another guy I believe who would give Floyd all he can handle, and it's a name you need to know, is unbeaten Brad Solomon. He's 5'11". He's actually taller than Martinez and Alvarez. He moves much better than Floyd, right? Not as good, much better. He doesn't telegraph his punches. He's literally a Roy Jones disciple. He hits hard with both hands. He can lead with power shots, right? And if he's inside and things get a little bit complicated, he's one of the best at tying you up inside, right? I believe Floyd would have a very hard time finding this guy in the ring. And this guy does enough in terms of landing shots from the outside to give a technician like Floyd a very hard time. Floyd would have a rough time establishing the angles. Another fighter, I believe, and Floyd actually talked about fighting this guy, who would give Floyd a hard time, is Robert the Ghost Guerrero, right? He's a southpaw, like Sergio Martinez. He hasn't lost since 2005. He has a long jab. He can operate from the outside. Now, the Ghost has had problems in the ring. He has a problem with volume, right? He lost to Orlando Salido, But then the fight was later changed to a no contest. He couldn't handle Salido's high volume style and his angles, right? He was getting roughed up by Daud Yordan in a fight that got stopped prematurely because of an accidental cut. Make no mistake, that fight, a no contest, was going to be a hairy fight for the Ghost. But understand, the Ghost is so good in a measured tactical fight that he was dodged for years by Juan Manuel Marquez. I believe the Ghost was even the mandatory contender, and Marquez refused to fight him, right? This fight would be a chess match between him and Floyd. The key is this: the Ghost has a vastly superior jab to Miguel Cotto, right? He's able to change angles from the outside. Although he's 5'8", just like Mayweather, right? He fights long. He's a long 5'8". The Ghost has beaten guys like Michael Casitas, for example, right? Joel Casamayor, right? Casamayor, a technician, a lefty, was completely dominated by the Ghost, right? Don't read too much into the late knockdown that the Ghost suffered in the 12th round, last round of that fight. That fight was effectively over by the time that knockdown took place. I believe Mayweather, who talked about fighting the Ghost, understands that the Ghost is an elite fighter. The Ghost will be fighting for the welterweight title against Selçuk Aydin. I expect him to win that fight. And let me just say, he's a name you need to keep track of. I believe Floyd Mayweather understands that if he stays in the sport, sooner or later he'd have to fight the Ghost, and that's a hard fight for him. I believe it's a harder fight than Manny Pacquiao would be. Finally, there's another guy I believe gives Floyd all he can handle. And it's Manny Pacquiao's stablemate, Amir Khan. Understand, Khan is 5'10". He has very fast hands. Let me repeat that. He has very fast hands, and he is an ambush fighter. In other words, you're in the ring, you're minding your business, you're a technician, you're thinking, okay, when he comes up, when he does this, I'll have it blocked, I'll throw that. When he does this, I'll have that blocked, I'll throw that. And then, of course, suddenly, here is Amir Khan. Just jumps across the ring. He's raining shots down on you. It's a hailstorm. The punches are coming too fast. You can't prepare for his right hand because it's on you frequently, quickly, right? He's not even trying to, pace himself. He's just coming in and raining on you. And then when you take a step forward to defend yourself, he's gone, right? He's gone. Now, unless you can put your head down like Lamont Peterson and literally track him down, get him up on the ropes, and expose him as a guy who can't fight inside, unless you have the foot speed to do that and are willing to track him around the ring, you're going to have a very hard time with Amir Khan. And the secret to Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, is that the legs are the first to go. And Mayweather doesn't move as well as he moved when he beat guys like Diego Corrales. Right? Take a look at those old films. You're going to see Mayweather had a mobility then that he doesn't have now. Right? And so it's hidden by him staying in the corner and having young lions like Victor Ortiz or Miguel Cotto come to him. Right? The problem with fighting an Amir Khan is you can't do that and have Amir Khan come to you, because Khan's not interested in standing in front of you, staying there and fighting the fight. So you're going to have to try to track down Amir Khan. It's very hard to do so because Khan is a tall fighter for his weight class who fights long. So you start trying to track down Amir Khan, you're asking for trouble, right? I think Amir Khan would give Floyd a difficult time. Also, Amir Khan actually moves better than Floyd. Just take a look at how much ring Amir Khan covers in his fights. So to sum up, Floyd Mayweather has had a spectacular career. Because of his stature, the public is going to insist on him fighting very tough fighters. Mayweather has a problem with the drug testing discussion involving Manny Pacquiao, right? Mayweather wants heightened drug testing. That seems to have been a problem. Mayweather, of course, used to be promoted by Bob Arum, who promotes Manny Pacquiao. The Mayweather-Bob Arum relationship, not the best. So for political reasons, it doesn't look like Mayweather will fight Manny Pacquiao. I also think Mayweather honestly believes that there is a drug issue there. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying I believe Mayweather honestly believes there is. And I believe Mayweather only wants to fight fighters he believes are clean, right? So Mayweather, I believe, has also looked at the fighters who are out there, and he realizes that Sergio Martinez is a legitimate threat to his unbeaten record. Bigger guy, hides punches well, has exactly the kind of style to give him problems. I know the boxing establishment, Jeff Mayweather, has said that Sergio Martinez's style is, I believe the word was whack and stuff like that. Understand, it's the unconventional fighters who pose the biggest problem to the status quo. When Muhammad Ali was dancing around the ring, people said, why would a heavyweight dance away from you? Right? Understand, it's that dancing that would make the Ali-Joe Louis match a mismatch. Of course, by the mid-70s, several heavyweights were dancing, right? I remember Mike Tyson literally coming in, bobbing his head. He'd come in square. He wouldn't throw a lot of jabs. He would throw power shots. In the 1980s, we thought that was ridiculous. Then, of course, we realized that really was, an effective paradigm. Well, my point to you is what Sergio Martinez is doing, while unconventional, it's highly effective. He's one of the sport's very best in any weight class. I believe Mayweather knows he's a problem, right? Forget what even the promoters are saying about Canelo. Canelo keeps getting better and better. Few in the sport hit harder, right? I'm telling you, those Shane Mosley body shots, I'm sure Shane Mosley right now, days after the fight, is still having a problem breathing. I think Floyd knows that Canelo is too big for him and that a fight at 154 would be a problem, right? I think that's another reason an older champion like Floyd might want to retire. Then, of course, you have Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Mayweather has him on his radar. I believe he knows he's a problem. Anyone who sees Brad Solomon fight knows that this guy's a major talent. He would be a problem. And of course, Amir Khan, when all is said and done, let me just say this. Amir Khan's hand speed, Amir Khan's ability to flurry, Amir Khan's accuracy on his attacks, Amir Khan's youth, I think Amir Khan would create all kind of problems for Floyd Mayweather. So I believe Mayweather's the best in the sport, but I believe he understands that there's some awfully tough challenges out there, and does he really need them with an unbeaten record at 35 years of age? I think he's asking himself that very question right now. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you feel there are any fighters I've overlooked. Let me know if you feel that any of the fighters I've named are overrated or are undeserving. But all I'm saying is at the end of the day, styles make fights. And if you're a technician who thrives off angles and structure, fighters who can literally break that structure and continually reset the angles, and who are coming from different angles, or who are ambush fighters who are here and then they're gone, right? There's no angle to counter because the guy is across the ring after the ambush, right? Those are the kind of fighters who can give even the best technicians a hard time. Let's remember, a great technician, Roberto Duran, fought Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Just look at that fight on YouTube. Duran got dropped multiple times in the fight. He could never come within 2 feet of Thomas Hearns in that short fight, right? Styles do matter. Thanks for watching.